clear days in the Northeast, both before and after last week's nor'easter, gave me a chance to compare satellite images before and after a snowstorm, and to talk a bit about how long it takes a Pennsylvania snow cover to melt. Now here's a view of the Northeast U.S., Southeast Canada, and adjacent Atlantic about 2 weeks ago. Now at that time, from southern New England off to the west, there wasn't much of a snow cover, except downwind of the Great Lakes, while northern New England and most of Canada had an extensive snowpack. Offshore, you can see streets of ocean effect clouds where cold air came off the continent over the relatively warm ocean. Now here's the view last Friday, just after the nor'easter. Some of this is clouds, especially over the ocean, and there on the bottom left of the image, but most of the rest of the land area is cloud-free, so you are looking at the snowpack. The differences in brightness are due mainly to differences in surface covering, primarily forested areas, which are darker because the snow tends to fall off the trees, so you're mainly seeing the tops of the trees. This is really evident if we focus on New York State, particularly in the north, where this nearly circular region is the heavily forested Adirondack Mountains, which feature plenty of spruce, pine, and deciduous trees. Now, just to its west, that smaller circular area is the infamous and also heavily forested Tug Hill Plateau that regularly gets blasted by lake effect snow from Ontario. Now let's focus on Pennsylvania. Remember, this is last Friday when much more snow was on the ground, and some of the white on the left of this image was clouds. You can really pick out the heavily forested areas of northern Pennsylvania and also the heavily forested ridges in the eastern part of the state. It's also easy to see the mostly unfrozen Susquehanna River as it snakes its way southward to Chesapeake Bay. Just to get a sense of how quickly a snowpack can melt this time of year, I went back to March 15, 1993, right after the historic superstorm. Here's the snow depth that day at 10 places across the state. Now this is a lot more snow than was on the ground after this month's nor'easter, so this is kind of a worst-case scenario for March snow cover. Now here's what was left just 5 days later. Nothing in Philly, just a trace in Pittsburgh, just 1 inch in Erie, while Harrisburg and Johnstown each lost 16 inches of snowpack in the previous 5 days. Yes, some of that was compaction, but a lot was melting. After another 5 days, the snow was pretty much gone everywhere, except the central and northern mountains, and by the end of the month, only northern tier counties had any snow on the ground. Now, you may be thinking that time period must have been mild for the snow to melt that fast, but actually, it was colder than average for much of the state, though not quite as cold as this past week has been this year. The message from this is simple. This time of year, snow cover in Pennsylvania usually melts pretty fast, and unless there's another snow, most, if not all, of the state will probably be snow-free by the end of the month. Stay tuned. The extended forecast is next.